I'm the captain of Flight 482. My plane is waiting at gate C27. You can check the manifest.
Anyone can wear a costume. Stop talking and keep your hands where I can see them. Call airline operations.
I am the captain. Turn around now. You don't belong here.
At 6:12 a.m. in Concourse C of Hartsfield-Jackson International Airport, a commercial airliner sat ready to depart. Passengers were seated. The crew was on standby. Boarding had closed. But the man assigned to fly the aircraft was not in the cockpit. He was face down against a glass wall, one arm twisted behind his back, a knee pressed into his lower spine by an airport police officer who had already decided he did not belong there. The officer's voice, caught on nearby phones and security cameras, was loud, sharp, and full of suspicion. He questioned the man's uniform, his ID, and his right to be in the secured area. He spoke to him differently than he spoke to the white crew members standing a few feet away. Every word carried the same message. You don't look like a pilot, you look like a problem. Within minutes, what should have been a routine walk to the flight deck became a public detention driven by racial bias and unchecked authority. And before the morning was over, this decision would ground a flight, trigger a federal investigation, cost a police department its contract with an airline, and lead to an $11 million lawsuit that would shake one of the busiest airports in the world. Before we go any further, comment where in the world you are watching from, and make sure to subscribe, because the next story is one you don't want to miss. The officer's name was Wade Kettering, 43 years old, 15 years with airport police, built thick through the shoulders, shaved head, tight jaw. Inside the department, he was known for being hard on security. Outside of it, in complaint files and internal notes, he had another reputation: aggressive stops, racial profiling, and a pattern of confrontations with black travelers and employees. None of it had been enough to remove him from duty. He was still on the early morning shift, still working Concourse C, still carrying the same confidence that came from knowing supervisors usually backed him. Wade stood at the end of the jet bridge, one hand resting near his belt, watching the morning crew move in and out. He had already stopped 2 ramp workers for random checks and let 3 white pilots walk past with nothing more than a glance. When he saw the black man in a captain's uniform approach, his posture changed. His eyes stayed on him. He stepped directly into his path. "Hold up, ID, now." Andre stopped. He was 40 years old, tall, calm, and in full airline uniform, 4 stripes on his shoulders. His name was Captain Andre Holloway. He had over 12,000 flight hours, 8 years with the airline, and a reputation among crews for being steady and professional. He was scheduled to command the morning departure to Chicago. Passengers were already seated. The door was minutes from closing. Andre reached into his jacket slowly and produced his badge and pilot certificate. Wade didn't take them right away. He looked Andre up and down first. "You walking around in a lot of restricted space for somebody I don't recognize. Where you think you're going?" "To my aircraft, gate C27. I'm the captain on that flight." Wade smirked. "Yeah, and I'm the president." Andre held his ID out again. "You can scan it. You can call ops. I'm on the manifest." Wade finally snatched the badge, glanced at it for less than a second, then looked back at Andre, eyes narrow. "Anyone can print plastic. I've seen fake badges before, seen fake uniforms too." Andre kept his hands visible. "Sir, the crew was waiting. If there's an issue, call your supervisor or airline operations." Wade's voice hardened. "Don't tell me how to do my job." A flight attendant, a white woman in her 30s, slowed as she passed, looking between them. Wade waved her through without a word. His attention stayed fixed on Andre. "Turn around," Wade said. "For what reason?" Andre asked. "Because I said so." "I've given you my identification. I'm cleared. I'm not resisting, but I need to get to the cockpit." Wade stepped closer, invading his space. "You people always got a story, always in a hurry, always got some important title." Andre's jaw tightened. "I'm asking you to verify, not assume." Wade's hand went to Andre's shoulder, not a guiding touch, a shove. "Hands on the wall." Andre turned slightly surprised. "There's no cause for force." "Hands on the wall, now." Passengers in the jet bridge began to slow. A gate agent, Lena Morris, looked up from her screen and saw the confrontation. She took a step forward. "Officer, that's our captain. We're waiting on him." Wade shot her a look. "Stay in your lane, ma'am." He pushed Andre forward hard enough that his shoulder hit the glass. Andre's palm went up to steady himself. "I am not resisting," Andre said, louder now. "You're escalating this for no reason." Wade twisted Andre's arm behind his back. Andre grunted in pain but didn't strike back. "Stop moving," Wade barked, even though Andre was standing still. A few passengers raised their phones. One man said, "That's the pilot, man. What are you doing?" Wade ignored them. He pulled out his cuffs. "You're being detained for impersonation and failure to comply." "That's false," Andre said. "Check the system. Call operations. Call your supervisor." Wade pressed him harder against the glass. "You don't give orders here." The cuffs clicked around one wrist. Inside the gate area, Lena Morris picked up the phone and dialed airline operations, her voice shaking as she said, "They're cuffing our captain." And as Wade forced Andre's second arm back, tightening the metal until it bit into skin, the aircraft at gate C-27 sat with its engines quiet, its passengers waiting, and its captain being treated like a criminal in full view of the terminal. Wade forced Andre forward and walked him off the jet bridge, one hand locked on the chain of the cuffs, the other pressing between his shoulder blades. Andre kept his balance, breathing controlled, eyes forward. "I'm not resisting," Andre said again. "You're hurting me for no reason." Wade leaned close to his ear. "You should have thought about that before you decided to play dress-up in a secure area." "I am the captain of that aircraft," Andre said. "You can confirm it in 30 seconds. Wade ignored him and keyed his radio. "I've got a possible impersonator in a restricted zone. Male, black, mid-40s, requesting backup to Concourse C security office." The word black came out like it was part of the charge. They entered a small security room just off the concourse. 2 plastic chairs, a metal table, a camera in the corner. Wade pushed Andre down into one of the chairs and tightened the cuffs another notch. Andre winced. "You're cutting off circulation." Wade shrugged. "You'll be fine." A second officer passed the doorway and looked in. "What's going on?" "Fake pilot," Wade said. "Claims he's a captain." Andre lifted his cuffed hands slightly. "Check my credentials. Call airline operations. Call the cockpit. My first officer is on board right now." Wade waved it off. "We're not calling anybody until we figure out who you really are." Outside, through the glass, Lena Morris could be seen speaking urgently on the phone, pointing toward the room. Wade noticed and stepped out for a moment. "Ma'am, step away from the door." "That's our captain," Lena said. "The flight can't leave without him. His name is Andre Holloway. It's on the manifest." Wade's jaw tightened. "We'll handle it." "You're delaying a departure," she said, "and you're detaining him for nothing." Wade's eyes hardened. "I said we'll handle it." He turned back into the room and shut the door. Andre sat straight despite the cuffs. "You've been on the job long enough to know how this works. You run my ID, you check the crew list, this ends." Wade leaned against the table. "You think I don't know how this works? I know exactly how this works. Guys like you come through here all the time with excuses and paperwork and attitudes." "Guys like me?" Andre asked. Wade didn't answer directly. "I've had smugglers, thieves, and frauds swear they were something important. Judge, doctor, military, now pilot, always something." Andre met his eyes. "And how many of them actually were what they said they were?" Wade stared for a moment, then looked away. "You're not getting out of those cuffs until a supervisor gets here." "Good, because he's going to confirm everything I'm telling you." Wade's radio crackled. "Sergeant Rensler en route, 2 minutes." Wade nodded and clipped the radio back to his shoulder. He paced once, then stopped in front of Andre again. "You know what the problem is?" Wade said. "People think a uniform means respect, means you get to walk anywhere you want, but not on my watch." Andre kept his voice even. "The problem is you decided I was guilty before you checked anything." Wade laughed quietly. "I decided you didn't belong." Outside, a small group of passengers had gathered. A man in a business suit could be heard saying, "That's our pilot. Why is he in handcuffs?" Another voice said, "This is crazy. We're going to miss our connection." Inside the room, the door opened and Sergeant Mark Rensler stepped in. Mid-50s, gray at the temples, calm face, tired eyes. "What have we got?" Mark asked. Wade spoke first. "Male claiming to be a captain, badge looked off, acting evasive, refused to comply at the gate." Andre turned slightly in his chair. That's not true. I provided ID immediately and asked you to verify it. You put hands on me without cause. Mark looked at Andre's uniform, then at the cuffs. Name? Andre Holloway, Flight 482 to Chicago, Gate C27. Call airline operations or check the crew system. It will match. Mark nodded slowly and stepped to the computer terminal in the corner. He typed in the name. Wade watched, arms crossed. The screen populated with crew data. Mark's eyes moved across it. He looked back at Andre. You are listed as the operating captain. Andre exhaled once, controlled. Yes. Mark looked at Wade. Why is he in cuffs? Wade stiffened. He matched indicators for impersonation, restricted area. I followed procedure. Mark studied the screen again, then the cuffs. Procedure is verification first, not force first. He was argumentative, Wade said. Didn't like being stopped. Andre cut in. I questioned being shoved. That's not resistance. Mark held up a hand, then picked up the phone on the desk. I'm calling airline operations to confirm directly. As the line rang, Wade shifted his weight, his confidence starting to thin. Mark spoke into the phone. This is Sergeant Rensler with Airport Police. I need to confirm Captain Andre Holloway, Flight 482, Concourse C. A pause. Yes? I see. Thank you. He hung up and looked at Andre. They confirm you are the assigned captain. They're asking why you're being detained. Wade's jaw tightened. So what, we just let him walk after he gets smart with an officer? Mark's voice stayed level. We remove the cuffs and get him back to his aircraft. Wade didn't move. Mark looked at him. Now. For a moment, it seemed like Wade might argue. Then he reached out and unlocked one cuff, then the other. The metal dropped away. Andre flexed his wrists, red marks already forming. I want this documented, every second of it. Mark nodded. It will be. From the hallway, the sound of raised voices grew louder as word spread that the captain had been detained. And just as Mark opened the door to escort Andre out, a woman in a business suit hurried towards them. Sergeant, this is Susan Armitage from Airline Operations. She's on her way here now. She wants to speak to everyone involved. Susan Armitage arrived at the security office less than 10 minutes later, escorted by 2 airport managers. She moved fast, phone still in her hand, eyes fixed on the room where Andre had been cuffed. She was in her early 50s, vice president of operations for the airline, and she did not waste time. Where is Captain Holloway? She asked. Mark stepped aside. Andre was standing near the wall, rubbing his wrists. Red marks were still visible. Susan's face tightened when she saw them. Did you put him in restraints? Mark answered before Wade could. Yes, ma'am, he was detained by Officer Kettering. Susan turned to Wade. On what grounds? Wade straightened. Possible impersonation. He was in a restricted area and his behavior was suspicious. Andre looked at Susan. I presented my ID immediately. I asked for verification. He never ran it before using force. Susan's eyes moved from Andre to Wade. Is that true? Wade hesitated. I exercised officer discretion. Susan let out a short breath. You detained a uniformed captain in a secured terminal 10 minutes before departure without verifying his credentials, and you put him in handcuffs in front of passengers? Wade said nothing. Outside the room, voices were rising. Passengers had gathered near the glass. Several were still recording. Mark spoke quietly. BodyCam and security footage are being preserved. Susan nodded. Good, I want everything. She turned back to Andre. Captain, are you fit to fly? Andre answered without hesitation. Yes, but I need this incident documented and I need my crew informed. Susan nodded. They are. The aircraft is holding. She faced Wade again. You spoke to him in a way you didn't speak to other crew members this morning. Wade's jaw tightened. I treat everyone the same. Andre looked at him. You waved 3 white pilots through without checking anything. You stopped me, accused me of lying, and put hands on me. Silence filled the room. Mark broke it. Wade, step outside. Wade's eyes flicked to Susan, then to Mark. He walked out. Through the glass he could be seen speaking sharply into his radio, his posture stiff, his expression tight. The confidence he'd had at the gate was gone, replaced by something closer to frustration and anger. Susan lowered her voice to Andre. This will not be brushed aside. The delay alone is a major issue. The detention is another. The manner of it is a third. Andre nodded. I want the facts on record, no spin. "You'll have them," she said. A moment later, Mark returned with a tablet. "We reviews the first part of the body cam, the stop, the language, the physical contact." Susan looked at the screen briefly, then handed it back. "That's enough for now." She turned to Mark. "We are invoking our right to suspend this department from our security operations pending review." Mark's eyes widened slightly. "That's a serious step." "So is putting a captain in cuffs because he didn't look right," Susan replied. Outside, Wade could be seen pacing. Susan opened the door and addressed him directly. "Officer Kettering, you are to have no further contact with Captain Holloway. An internal and external review will follow. Your conduct and your history of complaints will be part of it." Wade's face reddened. "So he mouths off and I'm the one in trouble?" Susan said, "You escalated without cause, and the footage shows it." Wade looked at Andre. For a second, the hostility was still there, but it was mixed now with something else. Realization. Andre met his eyes and said quietly, "You didn't see a pilot, you saw a threat." Wade said nothing. Susan turned back to Mark. "Escort Captain Holloway to his aircraft. I will inform our legal team and the airport authority." Mark nodded. "Yes, ma'am." As they walked down the corridor toward gate C-27, the crowd parted. Some passengers stared, some whispered, a few nodded at Andre in support. Lena Morris stood near the podium, relief and anger both on her face. "They're ready when you are, Captain." Andre gave a small nod. "Thank you for calling it in." Inside the jet bridge, the first officer stepped forward. "Are you okay?" "I will be," Andre said. "Let's get the passengers where they need to go." As he entered the cockpit, his voice over the intercom was steady, professional, unchanged by what had just happened. But behind the scenes, Susan Armitage was already on another call, this time with corporate legal. "This is not staying internal," she said. "We are terminating the security contract pending outcome, and we are preparing for litigation. The amount of exposure will be significant." On the other end of the line, the word millions was mentioned. And back in the security office, Wade Kettering sat alone, replaying the moment he decided a man in a captain's uniform did not belong, and realizing that decision had just put his career and his department on a path they could not step away from. By noon, the story had moved beyond Concourse C. Airport authority officials, airline executives, and legal representatives were in a closed-door meeting on the top floor of the terminal. Security footage, body cam clips, and witness statements were already being reviewed. The timeline was clear, the language used, the physical contact, the lack of verification, the difference in how one officer treated one pilot. Susan Armitage sat at the head of the table, a stack of printed reports in front of her. "This is not a misunderstanding," she said. "This is a pattern." A lawyer beside her scrolled through a file. "Officer Kettering has prior complaints, excessive force, racial profiling, none sustained but all documented." Susan nodded. "And now he has put our captain in handcuffs in front of passengers and crew because he didn't look right." An airport official tried to speak. "We take these matters seriously, but..." Susan cut in. "Our decision is already made. Effective immediately, we are terminating the police department's security contract with our airline at this airport." The room went quiet. "That's a major move," someone said. "So is what he did," Susan replied. "We will not have our flight crews treated like suspects because of their skin color." Downstairs, news crews were already setting up. Phones had been uploading clips since the morning. A uniformed pilot against a wall, a knee in his back, the word impersonator being said out loud. By late afternoon, the airport police department released a short statement. An internal investigation is underway. The officer involved has been placed on administrative leave. Wade Kettering was told to turn in his badge and weapon and report to internal affairs. He sat in a small office, the same jaw tight, the same posture stiff, but now without the authority that had protected him for years. An investigator played back the footage. "You stopped 3 white crew members without checking their IDs. You stopped Captain Holloway, accused him of lying, used force, and cuffed him before running his credentials. Explain that." Wade shifted in his chair. "He was in a restricted area. So were they." Wade said nothing. The investigator leaned forward. "Your language on the recording, the tone, the assumptions, this is not your first complaint of this nature." Wade's voice dropped. "I was doing my job." No, the investigator said. You were acting on bias. Across town, Andre Holloway sat with the airline's legal team. His wrists were still faintly marked. His uniform from that morning was folded on a chair beside him. The lead attorney spoke calmly. Unlawful detention, excessive force, racial discrimination, emotional distress, professional harm, public humiliation. We're filing in federal court. Andre nodded. I don't want a quiet settlement. You won't get one, the attorney said. Given the footage and witnesses, we are seeking $11 million. The number hung in the air. That reflects damages and accountability, the attorney continued, and it sends a message. Andre looked down for a moment, then back up. I want the truth on record. That's the point. The lawsuit was filed the next morning. Headlines followed within hours. Airline captain detained by airport police in an apparent case of racial profiling. Airline terminates security contract after pilot handcuffed. $11 million federal lawsuit filed over Atlanta airport incident. By the end of the week, the police department announced the results of its internal review. Wade Kettering was found to have violated use of force policy, failed to follow verification procedures, and engaged in conduct inconsistent with department standards. He was terminated. At a press conference, the police chief spoke carefully. We regret the incident involving Captain Andre Holloway. The officer's actions do not reflect the values of this department. We apologize to Captain Holloway and to the airline. Andre stood at a separate podium later that day. No anger in his voice, no raised tone. I followed every rule. I wore my uniform, I showed my ID, I spoke calmly, and I was still treated as if I didn't belong. This wasn't about security, it was about assumption. A reporter asked, "What do you want to see change?" Andre answered, "Accountability, so the next person in uniform doesn't have to prove they deserve to be there." Behind the scenes, the airline finalized the contract termination and moved security operations to a different provider. Training protocols were updated. Coordination between cockpit crew and airport security was revised. The flight Andre had been scheduled to fly that morning eventually departed, hours late. Most of the passengers never forgot why. As for Wade, his career in law enforcement was over. No quiet transfer, no desk assignment. The footage, the findings, and the lawsuit followed him everywhere he applied. The incident that began with one officer deciding a black man didn't look like a pilot ended with a fired officer, a severed police contract, and an $11 million lawsuit that forced an entire system to confront how quickly bias can turn authority into abuse. And at Hartsfield-Jackson, in Concourse C, the glass wall where a captain had once been pinned became just another part of the terminal, but the cameras that recorded it never forgot. If this story moved you, don't scroll past it. Like the video, subscribe to Voices Unchained, and share this with someone who needs to see how abuse of power really looks when the cameras are rolling. And tell us in the comments, where in the world are you watching from?